A dog wanted my
Good morning, everyone. We will start off today's proceedings with a prayer. We gather with grateful hearts for this opportunity to come together. Thank you for the gifts each person brings to this table. For the privilege of our work and purpose, we give thanks. May our gratitude inspire thoughtfulness in our discussions and compassion in our decisions as we begin this meeting. Amen. Please be seated. Welcome everyone to May's council meeting on a very cold morning. Welcome to councillors, staff, members of the public and media as well. I see Kavinda's already straight to work, so a reminder to councillors to be smiling at all times today, otherwise you'll be put on the front of the Southland Times with a frown on your face. So I will look for apologies. I have one from Councillor Stringer. He should be here a little bit late today. Are there any other apologies? Appear to be none. I will move from the chair that we accept the apology from Councillor Stringer, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. And against? That is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. We have no public forum today. Any conflicts of interest in this agenda? Councillor Coates.
Through you, Your Worship, it could be a perceived conflict of interest for the Sport NZ Rural Travel Subcommittee meeting. I was part of one of the applicants for that.
Thank you, Councillor Coates. Just minutes, so I'm assuming it should be okay. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Worship. In committee and confidential business and the property status group, I have a conflict in there. I'll explain later when we get to that.
Thank you, Councillor. Those are appreciated. We will move on to the confirmation of the agenda. I just have a very procedural change. Councillor Gardine is the portfolio chair for infrastructure and assets. Will be leading 8.1 and 8.3, so we will deal with those together, and then I will take back the chair for 8.2, and while I'm on the subject, Councillor Smith will be leading 8.5. All happy? Thank you, councillors. Moving on to the confirmation of minutes, 6.1, which is the Sport NZ Rural Travel Fund Subcommittee minutes. Any commentary on these? Councillor Coates.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just for the Matara Community Board minutes, I just want to note that Laurel Turnbull was via video link, and yeah, that's the only one I have for that.
That's cool. We'll do that when we get to those minutes. Not dealing with them all together. So just the sports NZ. No, you're okay. Any commentary on that? I will look for move that receive a note and approve the release of funds for payments. Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Smith. Would you like to abstain, Councillor Coates? Just because it is a release of funds. Thank you. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. And against? That is carried. Thank you. 6.2, which is the council meeting minutes, 21 April. Comments, questions? I will look for a mover that we confirm the minutes of this meeting. Councillor Phillips, seconded by Councillor Paul McPhail. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? That is carried. We move on to the unconfirmed minutes of the Risk and Assurance Committee meeting, and I will turn to the lovely Giselle, who's on the screen behind us, who can give us a very quick verbal update.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I want to just ditch the lovely. It'll be a matter of opinion, so we'll just leave that at the door. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to kickstart a discussion on these draft minutes from our public meeting on the 28th of April in my capacity as the independent chair. The minutes are largely for information for all councillors. I'm going to speak to the most significant topics and then Councillor Smith, as the Deputy Chair of the committee, will lead discussion on a couple of items later in your agenda. Just to remember, most of our meeting was in public, and so the recording can, of course, be accessed by any member of the public or a councillor if they weren't present. So look, I just wanted to contextualise the minutes. Something that you will all be very aware of is that the government's Head Start and backstop proposals had not been announced when our committee met. That came later, and so if the minutes look a little odd that we weren't talking about that's why, because the minutes are a point in time. I thought it was worth explaining that for members of the public. Okay, so in the meeting, remembering that a committee doesn't make decisions, we make recommendations to council. We made 2 of those. So the first one related to the security for elected members. And we had a paper from management, and after some discussion about that paper, we decided to recommend that it be incorporated by making 2 changes to existing policies. That's the health and safety policy and the, I forget the name, but basically the remuneration policy for elected members, and that those 2 policies would be changed rather than recommending a whole new policy be developed. So the discussion, of course, supported the initiative, but just said, let's fit it into some existing policies trying to be efficient. So that was an important conversation. And then secondly, we also recommended the risk management policy to council. That's in your agenda. So they both matter. Then we had a bunch of other discussion topics. I'll just really quickly run through them. Significant discussion on the Environment, South and Climate Change report that was tabled. And I think in your agenda today, you've got a 1-page summary of that. It was very useful across the community, and the detailed report will inform all of council on your long-term planning. And then we progressed a bunch of things that are under our own work. So our own annual work plan, the external audit preparation, and a Treasury report, which gave a tick for compliance, and also did a little bit of crystal ball gazing for the conversation around what is going to happen to interest rates this year, but there was nothing of concern. So those were the key things that we talked about. We have our next meeting as a committee on the 16th of June in public. And then I think we're going to have a brief workshop at the end to talk about insurance, which I know the CFO was already getting ready for. So that's my summary, Your Worship. If there's anything I can help with or any conversation around the council table, I'll hand back to you.
Thank you for that, Giselle. Any questions from the council? Appear to be none. I will look for a mover that we note the minutes of the Risk and Assurance meeting held on the 28th of April. Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Cupid. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. And against, that is carried. Thank you very much for tuning in, Giselle. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
On to the WasteNet minutes, which was on the 9th of February 2026. Councillor Phillips.
Sorry, Your Worship, you missed the passing of the minutes of 6.3, the Mataura Community Board.
I did, after correcting Councillor Coates earlier. 6.3, thank you, Councillor Phillips. The Community Board minutes. Amanda, did you get the notes from Councillor Coates? And she has another one. Off you go.
Through Your Worship, just wondering if there's a possibility that we as a council can recommend that Councillor Stringer speaks to NZTA in regards to the yellow line subject that's spoken about in the minutes, please.
Happy to. I think it can just probably be a comment. I think Councillor Stringer will take that away. I know he's not here, but would you like it as a recommendation? Okay, it's fine. So you're happy to move that we approve the minutes? and also that we recommend that Councillor Stringer follows up around that issue of yellow lines. Now a seconder for those two motions. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other commentary on the community board minutes? Appear to be none. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. And against, that is carried. Now on to 6.5, WasteNet, 9th of February. Councillor Phillips or Councillor Fraser, did you have any feedback?
Thank you, Your Worship. No comment at this stage, just if there's anyone got any questions, I'm more than happy to ask them. Just the time frame on those minutes, as I explained earlier on, it's just a timing factor about when we have our meetings and the council has their meetings. We had a meeting in March of this last month.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Any questions for these? Appear to be none. Could I have a mover that we receive a note to these minutes? Councillor Phillips, seconded by Councillor Fraser. I will put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. And against, that is carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to first report for information, which is 7.1, the Mirahuku Southland Climate Change Impact Assessment Report. I will welcome up Environment Southland, come and answer questions and provide any extra information on the report. Thank you for making the time today. It's very much appreciated. Did you have any update you want to do from the report, or happy to answer a question? I've got a presentation? Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy for us to go through that.
Lovely. Take it away.
Thank you for allowing us to come here today and present this report to you. As councillors will be aware, there was a similar report done in 2018. This is an update of that report and also an expansion. While this report was commissioned and overseen by Environment Southland, its scope was contributed to by all councils, including the Regional Climate Change Working Group, which is why we are reporting this back through to all councils for its use. We will also continue to work with staff at all councils in terms of taking what is a pretty comprehensive and dense 600-page plus report and making that information kind of accessible and usable by all of the councils in the region. So, Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Karen. I'm Chris Jenkins. I'm a hydrologist at Environment Southland. Thank you. Just a brief background on the impact report. So, a working group. Sorry.
Is it turned on? You just go. I'll see if I can fix this out. There we go.
So a climate change working group was established in February 2023, and it was tasked with progressing a regional response to our change in climate. And this led to the adoption of the Regional Climate Change Strategy 2024 and the Regional Framework for Action on Climate. And one of the focus areas was understanding climate change, science and risk. And this prompted an action for a revised impact assessment report, which was undertaken by NIWA, which is now Earth Sciences New Zealand. This report uses CMIP6, which is the current international standard for climate projections. There's a constant improvement to these projections that takes years from inception, and the previous version of this was CMIP5, which the 2018 version of the report was based on. So CMIP6, the overview of the design was in 2016, and as you can see here, there are many steps before we actually get to a regional downscale model that can be fed into sorry, it's not to be working. There we go. Sorry about that. So it's taken about 10 years for us to get to that stage. CMIP 7 is still in process, so follow-on reports in the future will be probably using that, but we're not expecting to get that data till the end of this decade. So this report identifies risks and opportunities that will be used to inform Environment Southland and our other stakeholders to help plan and prepare for future climate. So there are 4 volumes to the report. The main volume, which is the summary, atmospheric changes, cryosphere and hydrology, and oceans and coasts. So the previous report used representative concentration pathways. These have been replaced with shared socioeconomic pathways, and these use a combination of socioeconomic and climate pathways, and the outputs from these are fed into 6 global climate models. So climate change projections have been generated for 3 emission scenarios. So SSP 2 to 4.5, that's the middle of the road scenario in which emissions start to fall at the middle of the century, and that's based on current global emissions reduction policies and pledges. SSP 3 to 7 is a world where we've got high population growth, slow economic development, and there's low investment in education and technology, and that makes climate adaptation difficult. And then SSP 5 to 8.5, that's a rapid resource intensive growth driven by fossil fuels with little regard for climate impacts. Just talk a little bit about the difference between climate change and extreme weather. So climate change is a sustained long-term trend of warming global temperatures that alters the baseline of the weather. So it's a trend that happens over like decades. It's not a single event like an extreme weather event. So we can see here a graph of an air temperature site that we have up at McCullers Flat, and you can see there a steady trend in temperature rise over the last 35 years. It's about a 2-degree increase in temperature there. And then we've got an extreme weather event at that same location. So you can see there that red line, that's a heat wave that's lasted close to a month. And these extreme weather events, they occur over a few hours to days. And the connection between the two is that climate change acts as a threat multiplier. So it makes extreme weather events more common, intense, and damaging. Also, we have some natural oscillations that influence our climate and weather. So there are 3 of these that influence climate and weather in New Zealand, and these are going to continue to occur. So the first of these is the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO. It typically has a 2 to 7 year cycle, and it swings between 3 different phases: El Nino, La Nina, and the neutral phase. We have the southern annular mode, which is a belt of westerly winds that circles Antarctica. So they move north and south, and they can influence Southland's weather quite a lot. There's also the interdecadal Pacific Oscillation, which typically lasts 20 to 30 years, and during sorry, stop working again. During the positive phase, we have wetter conditions in Southland, and that positive phase is associated with floods. We also experience less rainfall when it's in the negative phase, but we get lots of La Nina events. And yeah, the flood frequency and magnitude increases quite a bit during the positive phase. As you can see there, we've got 6 events happening during the negative phase of floods greater than 500 cumecs on the Mataura River at Gore, and we've got, I think it's 14 happening during the negative phase. Sorry, out of sync here. So key messages are that across all climate scenarios, Southland's projected to become warmer than the reference period, which is 1995 to 2014. So all of the statistics that I'll be reading out, they are in relationship to that period. The models have been calibrated for that 20-year period. Average temperatures are expected to increase by about 1 degree by mid-century and roughly 2 to 3.5 by the end of the century. And sorry, it's stop working again. And this warming trend is consistent across every climate model used in the study. We're going to see more hot days and heat waves. By the end of the century, we could experience several times more hot days, particularly during summer, and there'll be increased risk of wildfire and a longer fire season. Frosts and cold days are expected to decline significantly, so by the end of the century we could see 25 to 45 fewer frost days in some areas, and for agriculture this means longer growing seasons, changes to pasture growth and potential new crops in some areas. However, these warmer winters could also allow pests and weeds, plant diseases to expand. Annual rainfall across Southland is projected to increase modestly by around about 5% by mid-century and up to 10 to 13% by late century. And rainfall changes will vary across locations and seasons. So the modelling suggests the largest rainfall increases will occur in winter and spring, and summer rainfall is going to become more uncertain, so it may increase in some areas but decrease in others, which means we could experience wetter winters but still also experience dry periods in summer. One of the clearest findings is that heavy rainfall events are likely to become more intense. Extreme rainfall events such as large one-day storms are projected to increase in magnitude, and this raises the likelihood of flooding, surface water runoff, erosion, and is going to put pressure on stormwater and sewage systems. In some catchments, the average annual flood magnitude may rise significantly under the highest emission scenarios, and the hydrological modelling indicates that flood flows in most Southland rivers will increase. So this has implications for flood protection schemes, infrastructure design and floodplain planning. Climate change is also likely to make river systems more variable. This means higher flows during heavy rainfall, possible reductions in low flows during dry periods, and more variability between seasons. In some catchments, this could affect water supply reliability for irrigation and other uses. Snow in Southland's mountains will decline sharply. So modelling indicates the volume of snow could decline by at least 50% by the end of the century, and the snow lines are also projected to rise several hundred metres. Sea level is going to continue to rise along the Southland coast. The implication of this is that coastal flooding is going to occur more often. Storm surges will reach further inland, and some coastal infrastructure is going to become more exposed to risk. The number of properties exposed to coastal flooding could increase substantially over time. Sea surface temperatures around New Zealand are projected to increase, so this warming may lead to more marine heat waves, changes in marine ecosystems, and potential impacts on fisheries and aquaculture. Marine heat waves are expected to become more frequent and longer lasting over time. So Gore by 2050, under the low and high emission scenarios, could see an increase in temperature of 1 to 1.4 degrees Celsius, an additional 9 to 13 hot days, and a drop of 12 to 14 frost days. and a drop of 0.6 to 0.8 wet days. The Waikaia catchment is forecast to have annual rainfall decrease by up to 10% in the Garvey Mountains, and days under meteorological drought conditions could increase by 20 days. Flood magnitude is projected to decrease for the headwaters of the Waikaia River, and the snow line expected to rise by 260 to 300 metres. The future climate that Southland experiences is going to depend heavily on global greenhouse emissions. So the modelling considers several possible global futures. So under higher emissions, warming's greater, sea level rises more, and rainfall extremes are going to intensify further. So in other words, the choices the world makes about emissions will strongly influence the scale of climate change experienced in Southland. And the overall message from Murihiku Southland is, taken together, the science points to a clear pattern. Climate is expected to become warmer, more variable, and more prone to extreme weather events. And these changes will affect agriculture, water management, flood risk, coastal communities, and natural ecosystems. But importantly, most of these changes are not immediate, which means there's time for planning and adaptation.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Questions from councillors? Councillor McKenzie.
Thanks for coming in today. Just, I've got my wrong glasses on. What was the projected sea rise over 10 years at Bluff? Sorry, I couldn't quite see it. Was it, I think it said, was it 250 mils, I think?
I think it's 200.
Sorry.
So the projected increase by 2050 was 210 to 250 millimetres, so that's pretty much throughout the region.
Thank you. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you guys for coming in today. I just look at the report and I'm reading away through it, and particularly your impact at a final glance is, you know, it blows your head when you read it. But then I look at your data. You talk about 35 years of data from certain areas. How far back did you look? Did you go back to the beginning of the 20th century and look at weather patterns from then and prior to that? Because you can read articles about ice melts around the Northern Passage in those times as well. You know, we take a small data gap and then we project it out even further. So how far back did you look?
So NIWA used data back from 1970 to present, and then they had a calibration period which was 1995 to 2014.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cupid.
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation. I did look through the report and it's a lot of heavy reading. I had a couple of questions around the modelling, and I see up there you said the SSP 2 to 4.5 is the middle of the road, but I could see, for instance, on page 10, you said that there was a statement that flooding's projected to increase by 42%, but that was based on the extreme end of the scenario with the SSP 5 to 8.5. And my understanding is that that extreme scenario now is a bit out of date, it's a bit unrealistically extreme.
So there are three different scenarios, emission scenarios, and basically there are different planning options that the councils can consider. So the extreme situation there, that provides like a headroom value. Throughout the documents, it refers to which particular scenario it applies to, but you can see tabled values for the different SSPs.
So you have tried to use the low range, the mid-range and the high.
Yes, so, sorry, excuse me. So yes, so all of that data is available for all councils to use. I believe the Regional Climate Change Working Group are trying to, or they're discussing about whether or not to reach consensus around which emission scenario is best to use for, different aspects of council planning going forward. So we're neutral on that, but, for officers to decide what's appropriate.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Garden?
As a farmer, I've always seen climate change from the 80s. We had some very severe floods, and before that we had some very dry summers, and so you used to go from Gorda to Tiana and it would be brown. And we haven't seen that for many years, and that was probably a dry period. And then we went, and it also had wet flood periods then too. And we've actually had a pretty good sort of ride for the last few years, but this year has been probably classed as one of the colder years for production and for farming. And that's pointing to a sort of a colder trend, and we see our frost coming back as we saw this morning. And those trends must waver each way, and I think climate change has been around for farming for a long time, and farmers have learnt to adapt and make decisions based on change. And I think that's what you guys are trying to point out. But I mean, how much is the influence, can we use this program or the report you've had, is it going to have an influence on how we can get funding from central government for doing the work the likes of in the river and digging the gravel out and being able to get those consents, which has taken probably 5 or 6 years, could be sped up a wee bit?
Through you, Your Worship. All councils have to consider climate change in its decision-making processes. So this report provides us with a basis to do so, and it in terms of applying for grants, etc., from the government, it's a clear, solid foundation to demonstrate that we've done that. In terms of some of the grant money that you may be referring to particularly around the flood work that Environment South has underway with the canal funding, this work will feed into that as well in terms of looking at future scenarios and making decisions there. So that is certainly why the hydrology component in this work was a really key reason for commissioning it, and why all councils had a role in terms of identifying which locations in the region we wanted finer scale information on. And just to acknowledge your earlier comments as well, that climate variability is made up of multiple things, of which climate change is one aspect, which Chris touched on early on. There are multiple cycles that affect the climate that we see on a day-to-day, season-by-season basis.
Thank you for that. Just following on from that, so now that you've got the breadth of information that this report provides, what is ES actively doing to plan for these scenarios?
So as I touched on, so we have our flood resilience work that is underway. I'm very happy to come and provide this council with briefings on that, if you wish. It'll be feeding into pretty much most of what we do in terms of looking at biosecurity risks that might be coming into the region. Looking at it'll be really important for spatial planning, which touches on all manner of things. So it's actually probably easy to try and figure out what it's not going to help inform than what it is. To be honest, it's yeah.
I guess just specifically touching on flood mitigation. So I appreciate that the work is happening, and it's good to see that is happening. That only increases that channel by, I think it's 13%, the amount of flow that can go through there. This report shows that that's going to be quite more dramatic than what that will allow for. What's sort of the future planning that's going on within ES of trying to mitigate that flood risk moving forward?
So there is quite a bit of work happening in that space, and we can, like I said, offer is to have the appropriate staff and come and brief you on that. I guess one of the key things in terms of some of that work that is underway is not only looking at, I guess, the infrastructure components and what needs to be done there, but also to develop a flood plan for the Mataura as well as part of that work. So not just looking at infrastructure, but looking kind of holistically down the river as to what needs to happen and where we need to go. And obviously this work will help inform the decisions that need to be made through that work.
Thank you for that. I think that would be really helpful, considering obviously changes within central government and regional councils going, and there's going to be a bit more onus for especially the people around this table to take on that responsibility as well. So being well informed, I think, is a good place to start. Just on a more, and you might not be able to answer this, but on a more immediate basis, is there any preparation going on around the potential for a super El Nino? I know that was commented on in the report, but there's indications that that might occur within the next 12 months. Is there any work that's been done on that?
So yes, Chris and the team have been both analysing La Nina and El Nino cycles and what that means, in addition to looking at how the super El Nino may play out for us, including analysing some of the reference years that Sciences NZ are using too. So we're currently just in the stage of wrapping up the science, our analysis on that, and that'll inform sort of a wet winter campaign that we're planning to do. So you'll hear more soon on that one, and we can make that analysis available once it's done.
That would be fantastic. I think it has quite serious implications for the district, especially for our farming communities as well, and making sure that they're as prepared as possible, because we do have a bit of lead time before that really gets underway, and obviously could impact the summer as well, being a much drier summer than anticipated too. Any other questions on this report? Appear to be none. I will look for a mover that this information be received. Councillor Bruce, seconded by Councillor McPhail. Any further discussion? I just want to say thank you very much to the team from AES. It's pretty hard to come to a different council and take a barrage of questions, and you answer them well, so thank you very much. Without further ado, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And against, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Where are we up to? We're going to jump forward. Sorry, John, I'm going to put you in the crossfire. A staff member needs to take off, so we're going to do 8.1, if that's okay with you, John. I will hand over to you. Matt and Aaron, do you want to come up for 8.1? So we're doing the water bylaw. Sorry to jig things around.
This is 8.1 water bylaw review, and it's quite an involved bit of work. I think Jason will probably have to speak to this one to fill in the gaps, because it got me confused a wee bit. But I mean, it's a necessity because of our district plan not having all the detail in it. I'll hand over to Jason.
Yes, thank you. You can hear me okay? Cool. Okay. Just through the chair. So the first one, the water bylaw, has come to the end of its 10-year period, and is due for review. So we have gone through that process. It generally operates pretty well, and just allows council to manage its water services. I'm happy to take the report as read. Really, the key changes that are highlighted in the bylaw are around legislation. Obviously, water legislation has moved a lot since in the 10 years that this bylaw was adopted. And so this is really about bringing it up to standard, and noting that probably in the next 2 to 5 years, the water entity councils will probably look to form a a joint bylaw to manage this on a consistent basis across the region. So this is really a bit of a holding period for us as a council. We need a water bylaw to make sure we can manage those services. We are not proposing any significant change at this time, but there will likely be changes in the future as the water entity gets set up and as new provisions are made around how we deliver water through that entity. I'll leave it there, and I've got Matt Hill, who can provide some planning commentary, and also Aaron is the technical expert to answer any questions. Thanks.
Does Matt want to comment now? Or where's he gone? Yep.
Through the Mayor, just basically the question around the relationship with the district plan, that relates more to the subdivision and development bylaw than the water bylaw, which is promulgated under the new water legislation. So there's not that close link, but when we get to the subdivision and development bylaw, there is, and I can talk more to that.
Any questions? Councillor Paul McPhail.
Oh, through the chair. Just the old chestnut that comes out every time we do look at water. Can you water your garden the same as you used to be able to? That's one of the things some people are asking, because that was quite a big contentious issue. Has that rating changed? The graphs look the same to me, but there hasn't been any.
No change.
Thank you, that was a good answer. The other thing is water meters I see in there. Has that changed at all in the way that's written? No, it's the same? So we still would have to decide as a council where we're going with that. Thank you, that's the other one, thank you.
Councillor Stuart McNeil.
I notice here there's a big section on backflow devices. So is every house and every connection going to have a backflow device fitted in the near future?
Under the legislation, every connection has to be backflow prevented. So, yeah, every connection will have it going forward.
Will that be that'll be done as things are upgraded, not a special work program?
We're currently working through some of it now. The legislation came in a couple of years ago, so we are non-compliant for that part of it, but so are a lot of other towns across the country. So, yeah, we're just working away slowly.
Councillor Andy Fraser.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify for me, I'm just looking at the three-step connection approval process. Was it always required an engineer's report?
The engineer's report is more for a subdivision. So the connection process currently is a three-step process anyway. It's just actually putting it in.
So just supplementary on that. So it's in there that you need an engineer's plans approval, which to me says that's for every connection.
So when you submit an application, you've got to submit a plan, and then the Three Waters Department then approves that plan. So it's just the same process, just written out.
No further questions. So this will go for consultation. We will have someone like to move then the recommendation. Now I'm not probably going to read it all out. It's A to I, and there's quite a lot of detail in there. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Mal McCuppet and seconder Stuart McDonnell. Any further debate or questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Jason and Matt and Aaron. Right down, next one. Find it.
Sorry, can you, Aaron? able to stay for the subdivision and land bylaws as well? Before he runs off.
Yep.
Hey, Jason, do you want Aaron here for 8.2 or 8.3?
For the bylaw one, please. I can handle the other one's fine. It's the work program one, which I can
Okay,
speak to.
we'll do 8.2 just because Aaron's got to take off. So,
Okay.
Aaron, do you want to jump back up here?
Right.
Okay, so we're doing 8.2 on page 281, the Land and Subdivision Bylaw Update Report, and this is to do with the district plan. Matt, Jason, or Aaron, do you want to kick us off? Probably Matt.
I'll go first, and then I'll let Matt just talk to some of the I guess key technical. But so this one is a bit different. This bylaw doesn't expire for another few years yet, but as a result of the process involved with the district plan and the decisions in particular on the district plan, we now need to amend the bylaw so that they are talking to each other and not requiring a whole lot of duplication through those two different processes, one being district plan, which is about resource consenting processes, and the bylaw, which is supplementary to that. So this one, council had previously agreed to look at moving towards a code of practice. However, through the district plan hearing decisions, the panel chose to stay with a bylaw format, and hence why we've sort of been bringing this forward to council today. I might pass over to Matt to make any further comments he wants around that.
Through the mayor, I'm probably just one key addition is that we've tried, so there is a bit of duplication between the bylaw and what's in the district plan, and that's intentional, so that those provisions line up. And there's an addition to the bylaw that basically says you can get an approval either through a resource consent or building consent approval without needing an approval through the bylaw. So, so it tries to avoid that duplication.
Thank you, team. Questions from the floor? Councillor McPhail.
Through the chair. Just a question, there's nothing in the proposed district plan that if something changes will affect this bylaw that we're looking at now with where we're at with the district plan?
So we're in the appeal phase of the district plan, so there's no appeals that specifically relate to the transport provisions and the earthworks provisions, which are the ones that are duplicated in the bylaw.
Any other questions from the floor? Appear to be none. I will follow Councillor Gardine's lead and just do recommendations A through I. Could I please have a mover? Councillor Gardine, seconded by Councillor Fraser. Any discussion? I will. Oh, Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question for Matt. I see that in the grouping is that they're trying to, if there is a subdivision of say 10 sections, small sections, that you can group in your stormwater, right, in a big group, tanks. Is there any indication there about doing that for firefighting purposes as well? Because each individual outlying area has to have a specific literage of tanks per house.
Through you, Your Worship. No, there is no provision for that for subdivisions unless they're out of the urban area. So the firefighting would still come from reticulated supply in those subdivisions.
So out in the rural area then, is there a provision then for that to happen? Say you take in like Ruby Road that had say 6 lot, 10 acres of 6 lots, right? Is there any provision for those group of people to to arrange their tanks in an area that's suitable for firefighting rather than have an individual tank at each property?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, they can. Again, it just has to go through the approval process through the subdivision.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, councillors. We have a mover and a seconder. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? That is carried. Thank you very much. Right, we will try and get back to where we were, which I believe was 7.3. I know. I'm just sorry. That was really mean. The financial report's being pulled out, so we'll just deal with the ones that we're doing together first. So 7.3. Resolution to receive all reports. So that will be the fuel contingency response plan, which did go to risk and assurance, but it's important that the public are aware of that. Council does have a plan should we change phases with the current fuel crisis that's going on, and also the mayoral report. I'll just give a very quick verbal update to that as well, which is just to highlight Southern Waters is working really well. They're working at quite a high pace to get that set up, to look to the transition 1 July 2027. And just a huge congratulations to Mayor Jock Martin from the Clutha District, who is the chair of the Southern Waters Shareholders Group. So he has taken on that role, which we're very thankful for. And Councillor Franz from the Waitaki District is the Deputy Chair. Was there any update from... I know that 2 of our councillors went to Zone 5-6. Thank you for the report that's been put in there. Any verbal update? No? Happy with what's in the report? Thank you for putting that forward. Really appreciate that. I will look that we receive and note these reports for information. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Phillips, seconded by Councillor Fraser. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? That is carried. Now we'll move on to the financial report to the 31 March 2026. I will welcome up Lornay. And I assume there's no update, so I will look to the floor for questions. Councillor Coates.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question for Lornay. In the report it says there's a 2.157 million favourable budget compared to what it was. My question was just for the public. Is that going to change a direction come the end of the financial year around how much debt we've borrowed?
Through Your Worship, yes, it will. We will borrow less debt than what we had predicted. We are through our annual plan, so we can't amend those figures, the opening figures yet for that. So we'll have a favourable variance next year for our debt as well, just forecasting that ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Coates. Any other questions? I had one, and this probably comes at things from a very irregular angle, but capital expenditure, we're only at 43% of the annual spend, and there's quite a few areas, 16%, 30%, 20%, which would seem like a good thing, but ultimately a lot of that capital work still needs to happen. What are the implications and planning that's going on about thinking about what's going to happen next year? And does there need to be a reduction of work that's taken next year because of all the work that hasn't happened this year? Does that make sense?
Through your worship, I understand where you're coming from and why you've raised this. The majority of our capital expenditure is in Three Waters area. So 10 million of the 16 million we had planned was in Three Waters. Now with the river project and then the delay in the Hillborough, we had quite a big chunk of money sitting in the Hillborough reservoir upgrade this year, and with the delay in the district plan being announced, and that has moved our consenting process for zoning. So that work will come through, will proceed into next year. What we will do is we are hoping to bring a report to council in June to approve some carry forwards for projects. Again, these projects have been approved. They were in the LTP for a very good reason, and we will put some of them forward. Some of the other areas with property, we have offset, again, some of the budget for the chambers here was sitting in property, so that variance isn't as big as what it looks. But again, we've got projects underway there that have been timing for new public conveniences and items like that that will have started before year end, but we'll ask to carry that budget forward.
Thank you for that. I guess just looking forward into the work program for the incoming year, has there been a bit of thought that's gone in from managers as to like already foreshadowing areas that they won't be able to complete because they're still completing things from this year, or is staff still optimistic they can complete both years of work?
Through your worship, staff are always optimistic that they can complete both years of work. Our work program next year is smaller. There's a lot less projects in there for next year, just by the very nature. Our biggest areas of work are still Three Waters and roading.
Lovely, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor McDonald?
Just a quick one, Lorna. Year-end deficit, are we looking like to be about 2 million below the 5? That's what I was thinking.
Through your worship, there's always year-end transactions that go through. There's a lot of accruals that need to be made that can impact that, but I am still confident there will be probably at least 2 million favourable at year-end.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McPhail?
Thank you, through your worship. Just the fuel cost with like parks and recreation and things like that, you mentioned it here. Have you noticed, how big a percentage, and because it's going to obviously offset what you can do, or what we can do, that going forward, has there been some calculations?
Through your worship, we are still tracking very favourably in our fuel budgets this year. We had favourable prices early in the year, which have been offset in the last 2 or 3 months. So we are still, given we're at 80% of the way through the year, we're only at 65% of our fuel budget. So for this year, we are comfortable. Going into next year, we may need to revisit if the prices don't come back down.
Thank you, councillors. Any further questions? Councillor Bruce, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you asked a really good question privately around material and non-material variances. Did you mind asking that publicly? I can do it, yeah. I'm just trying to find it, sorry, Lorna. There was commentary around vehicle sales and that being non-material. Can you just explain that for the public? Because I think it was a good answer.
Yeah, through your worship, we have the question that was raised was around parks and about materiality. So with materiality, auditors would put our materiality at 600,000. For reporting purposes to council, we try and keep it around that 100,000 difference. So if there's anything greater than 100,000, we will explain. So the question came up around parks and how they were favourable by 331,000. Now, 53 of that 31,000. Or 331,000 was from revenue, and the remainder was favourable variance and expenditure. So we have 53k favourable in revenue for parks due to vehicle disposals. And for us, that sits below the 100k materiality, which is why we haven't explained further.
Thank you, Lorna. Councillor Bruce?
What happens to the money from the vehicle sales?
Through your worship, that offsets the new ones, so we have some depreciation there that we have gathered to replace them, and the remainder comes to vehicle sales, and otherwise it offsets the operational costs of that activity.
Thank you, Lorna. Any further questions? Appear to be none. I will look for a move that the report be received. Thank you, Councillor McDonnell. Seconded by Councillor Coates. Any discussion? It's always good to see we're in a favourable position as we approach year end. Councillor Smith, did I just steal your commentary?
Yeah, I just wanted to say it is great to see that we're in a favourable position. I do note that a lot of that is projects being delayed and then not filling staffing, but it also shows that our staff and our teams are working hard to keep those budgets as low as possible. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing around that.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? Carried. Thank you very much, Lorna. Moving on to 8.3, and I'll hand it back over to Councillor Gardine.
Yes, this is amendment to the Three Waters work program, and Jason will probably fill us in a bit, and we'll move from there. Jason, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Councillor Gardine. I think really part of Council's long-term plan around Three Waters was getting a better understanding of our water network. We've had over the years a reasonable amount of desktop knowledge of the condition of our assets. We do have a very old pipe network. What we requested and have started to do as part of this LTP is undertake more detailed condition assessments of some of our assets. This is a costly and time-consuming piece of work, really about, particularly for our cast iron and AC mains, is really it requires us to get a really good detailed analysis. Requires us to take a physical sample and then have that analysed to see the condition, and you need to do that at multiple parts of the network. And we have been focusing initially on our most critical mains because if they have failures, then they provide the biggest interruption to consumers. So what we have had come back in this first sort of 12-month period, we looked at one of our critical mains from Hillborough Ave into the Gore Township. We've taken a number of different samples on there. What the analysis has shown us is that we probably have somewhere between 19 and 26 years life still remaining in those mains, and we don't want to really replace them now if we don't have to. We want to get as much use out of that asset as we can. Just noting though that those are still 80 to 100-year-old pipes, but they are doing very well for their age. So that's a positive. We've also been taking some samples of and we've had some failures in a couple of areas in Matoda. So what this report really is about is switching some of the priority for that work program. We had initially put in funding to replace some of the critical mains for Gore. We now want to move that and exchange that with our work program for Matoda. The other reason why the Matoda one is probably better being brought forward is you'll all be aware that NZTA and KiwiRail are looking at upgrading the intersection there at some stage. When that does come to light, it's likely to happen quite quickly, and so part of the upgrade for the pipe work in Matoda will also mean that when NZTA and KiwiRail do come to do that upgrade, we won't have to then react. We will have moved, upgraded and realigned some of that water supply to ensure that it's not required to be upgraded at that stage. So happy to answer any questions around this. I guess in summary, really, it's just about being as pragmatic as we can with our work program while we continue to understand how our assets are ageing underground.
Thank you, Jason. And is there any questions? I think we had some. Neville had a question. Whereabouts in Mataura specifically? Is it from the bridge to the railway or beyond?
Yes, so that is the area that we're looking at for that work, and we would probably, as part of that upgrade, also look at realignment out of that key intersection. That future-proofs against any further upgrades, and it just means that when KiwiRail and NZTA come to do that work, they're not going to then go and disturb our newly upgraded infrastructure.
Donna.
What happens if the Gore main pipe fails earlier than expected?
I'll never say that can never happen, but the whole, I guess, purpose of doing the condition assessment is to give us some level of assurity around that. And we have a pretty high level of confidence now, having had those samples taken. We'll continue to monitor those, so we'll probably come back in a couple of years and look at another 1 or 2 samples on that main to ensure that we are across it. But at this stage, we feel confident in that main in particular, and we'll continue to do other condition assessment work across the Gore network as well.
Councillor Andy Fraser.
Thank you, Chair. Jason, just on that, and you're saying coming back in a couple of years, considering the makeup of those pipes, considering what's in them, they're old, there's asbestos, would we not be continually testing due to, I would say, health and safety reasons?
No. So the health and safety isn't the factor around AC. Obviously, AC working with it is challenging, but I mean, AC has been and is used across the country for water and is safe for that purpose. Again, we do want to move away from that over time, but we don't believe there's a health and safety risk associated with that at the moment. Really, we want to make sure that our asbestos concrete and cast iron mains that we do have in place are going to continue to provide the continuity of supply to our Gore community, and that is of utmost importance to us.
Just had another question, Jason. With the new renewals, we're all going to PE pipe. What is the expected life of that compared to what we're just going to replace in the cast iron? We're getting 100 years out of our cast iron. PE hasn't been around that long. What is the expected life?
Basically the same level of life. So you're sort of looking, again, depending on conditions, ground conditions, pressures, things like that. One of the reasons why our pipes have survived is because they were quite low pressure compared to some other areas. So that has seen less deterioration than you would expect in mains of this age. So that's actually a plus to our network compared to others. So yeah, PE looking at a similar type, and that's why it has been, sort of nationally the choice for replacement and upgrades of pipework.
Thank you. Any further questions? Ben.
Thank you, Councillor. Just a question around the railway intersection in particular. What was the thinking behind doing that work now, and would it not be prudent to wait till the road's being dug up and the railway corridor, etc., and do it all at the same time? What was the thinking behind that?
First one, we won't know when that's going to happen. So you're trying to guess in terms of your work program. Two, the alignment there of our rates isn't ideal at the moment. So one of that, as part of that upgrade, we actually want to take it completely out of that intersection, sort of coming down in front of where the community centre is, and then going under the railway and state highway across and connecting up. So we've got to do a little bit of design work around that to make sure that alignment does work, but that's at a high level where we think it's best placed to provide a good constant water supply for Matoda going into the future.
Thank you, Jason. No further questions? Nikki.
Thank you, Chair. Jason, just a question around crossing that state highway and replacing that main. Do you have sort of a time factor? Because that's a fairly it's a fairly busy road. So the disruption and like planning around where those vehicles will travel and all that kind of stuff. Have you got any thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the nature of it, we will probably look at a direct drilling process. Won't be as expensive as the under the river one, but we have recently undertaken that to upgrade a failing main just sort of up from Sherbourne Street, so north end of Matoda, without having a direct impact on traffic and the rail. We will be going through, the plan is to go through a similar process so that we can undertake that upgrade without significant impact on traffic or rail. If we run into complications, then we may need to look at traffic management and detours, but at this stage, that's the goal with that process.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, I'll put the recommendation that the Council receives and notes the amendment to Three Waters Work Programme report, and B, approves the proposed amendment to the Water Main Renewal Programme, including the resequencing of the selected projects between financial years, and C, notes that the changes do not increase overall expenditure and are consistent with the long-term plan and asset management plan. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Stuart McDonnell, and the seconder, Councillor Nikki Coates. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? It's carried. Hand back to Ben.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gardine. I will now move on to 8.4, the draft fees and charges, and welcome Lorne back up. Lorne, do you have anything to add? I will open up to questions. Councillor Coates, you're first up.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of questions. Being a new councillor, I don't understand what the process is around making adjustments. I've been approached by Grey Power and they have suggested that we reduce the free parking age from 80 down to 75. Is that something that happens in this document, or do we wait till the long-term plan discussion or annual plan discussion? If you want to answer that, and then I'll ask my next question.
Thank you, through your worship. That is a change in level of service, so that would be an LTP discussion, so we can discuss that as part of the long-term plan.
Thank you. And then my second question is around the fees and charges for our community rooms. Under the understanding that now currently non-for-profit organisations have access to our community rooms down in Matoda, and I'm just wondering if the wording change in this document is going to affect that.
Through you, Your Worship, I don't anticipate that will change the access that the non-for-profits get. They generally fill in a waiver form that comes through for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Coates. Councillor Bruce.
So, can you confirm whether user fees and charges are regularly adjusted in line with inflation so that the burden doesn't increasingly fall back onto the ratepayers, particularly where facilities and services you use have been by non-ratepayers, so like this users for the swimming pool and they're out of town and things like that?
Through your worship, that's a really good question, and yes, we do. So our revenue and financing policy is a document for saying what percentage that the elected members think should be paid by rates and what percentage should be paid by user pays. So part of our adjustment in these fees and charges make sure we stay aligned with that revenue and financing policy. So again, the inflationary ones which we've got some in here, and other ones that are mandated by government are ones we change as well. But we do try and get that, and it's going to be a very interesting conversation when we come to do our revenue and financing policy review shortly.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Coates.
So just one further question. For the non-consented small standalone dwellings, that fee, is that in line with other councils around our area, or is that national type of fee? Like, how did you come up with that figure?
Through you, Your Worship, the budget holders, the manager of and the building control unit, have discussed it with their peers, so they have regular meetings with their peers and have aligned with neighbouring councils as far as I'm aware.
Any other questions? Cool. I have a couple. Hot and cold at the pool has been removed. What's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. The cold unit had fallen apart, but there's also providers in town that already provide that to a higher level that's actually better provided by the public, the service that they are doing, rather than our pool facility, which was just not getting the use and return on it.
So that's a service we won't provide anymore? Is that my understanding?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you for that. Question around the hire of our signs. I'm just trying to understand them. So it said, I think it says that it's $20 per booking. Does that mean that it's a unlimited time frame? How do the time frames work on that? And should it not be a per day charge?
Through your worship, that one's outside my sphere of knowledge, so that's understood by the regulatory team. But there is normally a limit in time frame on the form that they have to complete to do it. I'm sure there's people here who've actually used the signs, so I'm sure Councillor Coates can help us with that.
Councillor Coates.
Yeah, I recently booked a sign for the Rachel Studio of Dance Festival. It was $20, and we had a period of 3 weeks, and it depended on other bookings as well. So the staff worked really well in the office to align with how long we could have it there for. But it was $20, and it was really good for our organisation.
Cool. Thank you for that. I will comment in the comment section. Lornay's probably going to get sick of me mentioning this because it's probably, I think it's the third year I've mentioned it. Green waste still hasn't changed. Is there any more feedback on that? And I guess probably to councillors, is there appetite to make it? So for those who are new to council, the bit that really bugs me about green waste every year is that it's free up to 100 kilos, and then it's $12 as soon as you go over 100 kilos, and then it's 12 cents per anything over 100 kilos, which means that you could bring in 99 kilos worth and get it free, and then bring in another 99 kilos worth and get it free. And I just don't know whether that's fair, especially when there's a lot of people outside the district that also use our green waste as well. So I'm looking to Jason and also to councillors to whether we can change that to 12 cents per kilo and get rid of the free bit, or we make it free altogether, or whatever the solution needs to be, because it's really, really confusing and hasn't been fixed. Jason, did you have any commentary? Otherwise, I can leave it for discussion and debate.
No, I can just provide a little bit of comment. Firstly, we've had it now in place for a few years. It seems from a staff perspective anyway, this may not be the feedback you're getting as councillors, but it has, people have become accustomed to that charging. But that's not to say that we shouldn't be considering it. The plan is to, as part of our LTP discussions, is to bring that back. We've got some good data now on the charging and the income from green waste, and I guess it's a council decision about how we want to manage that, because if we do, again, people talk about it being free. It's not free. It just means that it's being subsidised effectively by ratepayers. So we've got to try and find what the balance is and how that affects our income line. But we can certainly bring that to council and I guess make have a good think tank around how that looks going forward, because it probably is the way it currently operates is probably not the long-term solution that you want.
Thank you, Jason. That's a good answer. I'll leave the rest of it to debate because we can have a bit of a discussion. Any other questions? There appear to be none, so I'll look for a move that we receive and note the draft fees and charges, adopt the proposed draft fees and charges, and authorise the Chief Executive to make any minor amendments. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Smith, second by Councillor Cupit. We're now open for debate. I will open it up as I was the one causing a bit of a fuss. For the hireage of signs, $20 is really, really cheap, and I know that's it's a community good, but in terms of advertising around town, it's probably a bit outdated. I don't know what the specifics are, and we probably want to actually do a bit of research into what those should be, recognising that obviously if it's a charitable event, then council will have some lenience, but I do think that people who are selling for tickets and things like that should probably pay for the advertising that they're using. They're on good sites. Same with green waste. Green waste I really want to deal with. It really bugs me. I have a ratepayer who's always in my ear every time fees and charges come around that. Is there any appetite to change it this year, or should we just leave it till have a look at it properly as part of the long-term plan, and same with the signs, and we'll deal with it next year? I mean, it's been like that for 3 years, so another year's probably not going to hurt. Councillor Bruce?
I think if you charge for the green waste, it's just going to get dumped around town. 100%.
Councillor Phillips? Councillor Fraser?
I was also going to say that we can actually still put green waste in our red bins, and one of the very few organised places that allow.
Through your worship, yes, we can, but it comes at a cost. So for every tonne that goes over the tip face through the red bin, it costs. So the amount we can divert from the tip and from landfill is much appreciated. So the advice where people say put in your red bin, please don't.
We're extremely lucky that we do get free, and His Worship is right that I could take 20 loads at 99 kilos in there and it cost me nothing. I just want to see something around commercial dealers and commercial people coming in there that needs to be probably tightened up.
The issue, sorry, Councillor Phillips, the issue I also have is that because we've got that free green waste, we have a lot of people outside of the district who are only, I mean, our boundaries aren't very wide, so they come in and then dump their green waste and then leave as well. So that's a cost that ultimately our ratepayers have to pick up. Councillor Phillips?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Look, it's part of the submissions with the group, the WasteNet group. There's always been a lot of discussion about how privileged we are, the Gore District, in having green waste for free as such, right? But as Lorna just said, there is a cost, and that cost is for chipping, et cetera, right? And it's going to be subsidised. But I think you either have a bin or you have free waste going over the landfill or the transfer station. And to encourage green waste going into your red bin, that's not a no-no, that's a no-no. It has to be over the transfer station to be chipped up, because it is always an extra cost. And with the waste levy going up further and further every year by central government, that means that it's more cost to our ratepayer. So the more we can encourage our green waste to be either chipped up and then utilised somewhere else, the better off we will be. Either that, or we have to have a bin of some sort for collection. So that's a discussion that I think we need to have for in our long-term plan.
I guess my argument to that would be a bin for every ratepayer in the district, well, those in the urban areas at least, is going to be far more expensive than a 12 cent per kilo, which is what people pay over that 100 kilos anyway. I'm gonna put a pin in it because I think we could go back and forth, and it seems like the mood is we'll discuss it as part of the long-term plan, and we're going to do a bit more of a deeper dive into fees and charges as well, so we can add that into the mix of the conversation. Councillor Coates.
Your Worship, just around what I was commenting on before around the community-based non-for-profit organisations and sports clubs, it definitely says in this document half the stated rate on application. Does there need to be some wording in there for what Lorna commented on my question before? Because I really don't want to see the likes of Plunkett or the Elderly Sits or the free health clinic in Mataura being charged for those services, so that our ratepayers and our elderly are missing out on, and young ones are missing out on those services.
I don't think the wording's changed, has it, Lorna?
It says half the standard rate, and then in the updated one it says half the stated rate on application.
The majority of those organisations will have put a waiver in at some point in time. So that's what the application is. So they will have had to have put a waiver fee first. I did talk to the staff down at the Mataura Library and Service Centre, and they said that they get the forms filled in and send them through for approval ahead of time. So there will be forms in the background that have waived those fees or given them reduced fees. Yeah.
Councillor McKenzie.
Question, Lorna, what is the criteria that a group or club or person has to meet to use any of our stands? Because I'm just thinking with an election year, there's going to be a lot of people wanting signage. What is the criteria that has to be met to use those stands of ours? Thank you.
Through your worship, that part isn't as managed by the regulatory team, so I do not have the answer to hand. But there are separate rules around elections and election signs and where they can go. So traditionally, council would not allow any election signs on our stands, because that would be seen to be promoting one candidate or one party over another. So we've got to be seen to be neutral. So there's legislation in place to that sort of governs the signage for elections.
Thank you, Lorna. Any further discussion? Councillor McPhail.
Through your worship, yeah, the signage is interesting. It is way too cheap for someone who's used it before. The staff regulate it really well as far as who can use it in the time frame, so they're excellent to work with as far as that goes. So, but I think the cost is ridiculously cheap, knowing what do you pay for other signage. So I think we can look at that and become a bit more realistic. The green waste thing's a really interesting one, because fly tipping is an issue. If you look around the countryside now, you've got to be careful. And a lot of council stuff is subsidised. That's what we're here for. We try and help our ratepayers so they don't have to pay for everything. So we just got to be careful what we do. So I think we do need to look at it though.
Thank you for that, councillor. Just on the fly tipping, it is green waste. Just reminding the public to not get carried. It is green waste. So we're talking lawn clippings, branches, etc. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Worship. In the water carrier part of the costs, Lorna, is it a cumulative of all those costs for the carrier? And is it cost effective with the cost of, $61 per cubic metre? Because we spend quite a lot of money in upgrading our filling position in Aparima Street. Is it recovering its cost?
Through your worship, I couldn't tell you that one. We would have to look at that and come back to you on that one.
Your worship, if you don't mind, I'll just flag that, then we can ask that question at the long.
Yeah, I think this has been a good discussion that we can pick up again as part of the long-term plan, and we do a deep dive into fees and charges. I have a mover and a seconder, I believe. Yes. Councillor Smith and Councillor Cupit. I will put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. And against? That is carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you very much, Lorne. Moving on to 8.5, and I will pass over to Tyrone.
Thank you, Your Worship. First time chairing, so have some kindness, please, if I miss a step. I appreciate your support. What's coming to us is the proposed risk management policy. This is work that's been undertaken to strengthen our risk maturity, including developing a risk management framework and risk management policy. So a lot of background work that's gone into this, so thank you to all the team that have been involved in that. A bit of background for everyone, it has been already workshopped in our risk and assurance workshop right at the beginning. Come to risk and assurance for overview at our last meeting, and now it's here for rubber stamp and approval from council. Mallory, did you have anything you wanted to add, or take it as read? Okay, thank you. Do I have any questions? There appears to be none. Do I have a mover? Oh, Councillor Fraser. No, just a question, sorry, TJ, and it's either to you or Mallory. This is a live document that can get changed at any time, isn't it? Just for clarification.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions? Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Gardine, seconded by Councillor Fraser. Any further statements, debates? Excellent. Then I will put the motion. Oh. So, Councillor Bruce.
So the policy says council wants a low risk approach and better decision making. So can the council sort of explain how ratepayers will actually see that in practice, and who is accountable when risky decisions end up costing the public more money? Does that sort of...
I can. So some of the work that was done in that workshop was to have a wee look at our risk ratings and how we foresee risk. And there was a bit of an attitude to taking some higher level of risks where we could get reward. And a good example of that was the pipeline that went under the river instead. So there was a bit of an attitude around wanting to see some more of that, but definitely making sure there was calculated risk. I mean, the buck stops with us. We are the governors. So we are working with our staff to get that assurance and support that it is a good decision, but it does fall back on us. Yep, Councillor Coates.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering, this document will then be used when items come to us and you guys and the risk and assurance have looked over a certain document, it'll come back to us and it'll have a low measured risk. Is that how it's going to come back to us? Is that what this is used for?
Yes, that's correct. So it's how we identify, manage and assess risks, like our overarching approach. Correct.
Okay, then I'll put the motion if there's no other questions. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, and thank you, Mallory. Very painless first item for both of you to deal with. Well done. Moving on to 8.6, which is the report to exclude the public from the following items, which is just the property status report, waste net and confidence minutes, and the risk and assurance public excluded minutes. I'll move from the chair that we're moving to public excluded. Could I please have a seconder? Councillor McDonald. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? The motion is carried. We will take just a minute while we... 2 minute break because we'll try and break for lunch. We'll try and power through these items and then break for lunch.